Hi, I'm astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon, which will be exact on July 5th at 6:57 p.m. New York time, so almost 7 o'clock New York time in the US, and 11:57 p.m. London time, so almost midnight. And the new moon will become exact at 14 degrees of Cancer, and this will begin a new moon cycle. And this is a really great time for all of us to set some intentions for the next 4 weeks until the next new moon begins. And as always, of course, I will talk about this process a little bit later in the forecast, and I will give you the very best and most potent times for setting your intentions. So stay tuned for that. And feel free to also use my timestamps in the description part of the video below to watch this video in smaller sequences or jump to a part in the video that you are interested in. Now, before we get started, let me just share I have another Solidity Today morning show coming up called Hot Astrology Friday. And that will be on Friday, July 26th at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and also 8 a.m. Pacific Time via KMET Radio. And feel free to watch this podcast or this radio show, listen to it via radio or watch it on YouTube. Or you can also watch the replay via YouTube or solivity.com. All right, now back to the new moon. This new moon might be a big turning point for some of us. Firstly, it squares the moon nodes in Aries-Libra, and the moon nodes, of course, represent our soul's journey. So individually and collectively speaking, this might be a turning point of some sort. The sun and moon are also making a wide conjunction to Venus in Cancer, and all three of these planets, the sun, moon, and Venus, they make a trine to an exalted Saturn in Pisces that has been retrograde since June 29th. We'll talk about all of that in a moment. Venus makes some other additional aspects in this new moon chart, and we have some other planets as well that we're going to be talking about. But before we unwrap all of this, let's first talk about the Cancer archetype and its energy and what it's all about. Cancer is the first water sign of the zodiac, and so it relates to the development of the emotional body. It's really our emotional conditioning from childhood on. So this moon cycle really amplifies feelings, instincts, and needs that we have on an emotional level. So Cancer is sort of like a yin energy. It's a receptive energy. It's the receptive principle. And so it's very much about nurturement. It's about protecting life. It's about birthing life. So it's sort of like the mother archetype, you could say. And the sun and moon in Cancer remind us that we have to receive as well as give. So it's not just about doing for others or helping others. It's also about how can we receive help? How can we receive being supported? Now, both constant giving and constant taking from others or constantly being supported from others is not really healthy, and it's not really sustainable. So Cancer is really about learning that balance between giving and receiving. And with this new moon occurring in protective introverted Cancer, we are invited to surround ourselves with quality and safety. We can expect anything connected to home, family, real estate, childhood stuff, anything like that will be heightened in our awareness for the next 4 weeks. So feel free to work with some of these things that are coming up. And this new moon also highlights the importance of listening to our feelings, focusing on self-care, healing our old wounds from the past, and releasing unhealthy patterns that keep us stuck in the past. So great stuff to work on. It's always helpful to release past issues from our upbringing so that they don't keep us stuck in a certain pattern. Now, if you want to read a little bit more about the Cancer energy, feel free to read my New Moon in Cancer article on my website at astrologercoach.com. You can just go to the category New Moon and you'll see the article there. And if you're not currently a member, you might not have access to the whole article, but you can get the first month of my membership for free with the coupon code UNIVERSAL at checkout. So you can experiment with whether you like to be a member or not. You can try that out for a couple of weeks, and you can cancel it at any time via your membership portal. All right. Now, let's talk about some of the aspects of this new moon chart. The new moon in Cancer squares the moon nodes in Aries-Libra. Now, the sun will square the moon nodes on July 2nd already, but the moon reaches that square on July 5th at 12:28 p.m. New York time. So at the time right before the new moon becomes exact, the moon will have an exact square to the moon nodes. But of course, both of these planets coming together, making that aspect, that's a huge opportunity to break free from past patterns and promote self-care. So it really encourages us to be aware of our needs and feelings, which will allow us to respond to life more effectively. Once we know what our needs are, once we know what we're feeling in any moment, and we're listening to those feelings, that can be very effective in making healthy decisions for ourselves. So ask yourself, how might a commitment to self-nurturing support healthy self-connection? And healthy connection with other people as well, because when we're connected to ourselves in a healthy way and we can make healthy decisions for ourselves, then we usually tend to have better relationships with other people as well. So how can a commitment to self-nurturing support healthy self-connection, healthy connections with others, and also with the world at large? How can we have a healthier relationship with the world out there in general? And so the term self-soothing resonates very beautifully here as well. So ask yourself, what does self-soothing mean to me? Am I capable of doing that? Do I know how to do that? I mean, this is something that we usually learn as babies or very early on in life. We learn through our parents modeling to us self-soothing and soothing us as babies. We learn how to eventually self-soothe. But it has to be modeled and it has to be given first. So what does self-soothing mean to you now as an adult? And might it allow me to stay connected to others, yet stay independent as I'm learning how to do that, or as I'm doing that? Now, the new moon also makes a wide conjunction to Venus in Cancer, and the sun and the moon and Venus make a trine to an exalted Saturn in Pisces, like I mentioned earlier already. So let's unwrap all of that. Now, with the new moon's alignment to Venus, we definitely want something more familiar, something more heartfelt, safe connections. You know, Cancer very much loves that safe emotional environment. And when it comes to love, as best as you can, be gentle with each other and make sure to talk about your feelings, allow people to have their feelings, allow people to maybe be cranky a little bit if they need to be, and be compassionate with each other. And then ask yourself, what's important to me when connecting with other people? On a scale from 1 to 10, how safe do I feel in the world, or how safe do I feel with other people? And what's between me and scoring 1 point higher on that question? Now, another question you can ask here is material safety or emotional safety more of concern for me right now? Is material safety or emotional safety more of concern to me right now? And do I need to help other people to feel valuable? Myself? Or do other people need to help me in order for me to find them valuable? So just kind of check in with these questions. You know, feel free whenever you work with my coaching questions, you know, journal with them, use them in meditation, brainstorm with a group of people, and allow it to be an intuitive process where things just kind of float up. So it's not about answering questions. Now, Saturn in Pisces is still exalted due to its switching directions just a week before the new moon becomes exact. And so it is retrograde from June 29th on until November 15th. And while Saturn is retrograde, it is asking us to move towards spiritual self-sovereignty by going within and practicing spiritual maturity. So we are being asked to reassess our interconnectivity with all of life, or the lack thereof. If we're not feeling that interconnectivity, we need to ask ourselves, why am I not feeling this connection with all of life? Or also the use of our spiritual practices. Like, we need to reassess, like, are these practices that are good for me? Do they support me in feeling more connected to myself and to life? Or maybe there's a lack of spiritual practices that we need to look at. And also our ability or inability to be present in the here and now. Saturn in Pisces very much wants us to focus on being present in the here and now and trusting life, trusting the process. So ask yourself, am I feeling spiritually blocked or energetically overwhelmed? Am I feeling emotionally fatigued or depressed? And what am I being asked to change or do differently? So if we're feeling those things, if we're feeling a little bit fatigued or depressed or overwhelmed, what do we need to change on our spiritual journey or in terms of our spiritual practices so that we can raise that frequency, that we can rise into a higher frequency? And what are the vices that help me escape those feelings? Because often when we feel overwhelmed or tired or depressed, we might have some things that we do to not feel those things. So what are those vices that help us escape those feelings? And are they really supporting me in the long run? Is this a sustainable thing to do? Because Saturn, of course, is always about sustainability. So with the retrograde phase, we're really getting a chance to dig deeper into within and to see, okay, what's working, what's not working here. Now, Saturn's trine to the new moon and Venus in Cancer invites us to take our relationship with loved ones more seriously. We have increased sensitivity to the needs of others. This is a good time to approach spiritually mature or creative. This is a good time to approach spiritually mature or creatively established people for their input, to ask people that are maybe teachers or leaders or that have a certain authority in terms of their spiritual journey already, to ask them for advice or for their input. And so you can ask yourself is who might welcome a heart-centered dialogue or a creative collaboration that is spiritually responsible and nurturing? So who might welcome that, or who might that person be that I want to be connecting with there? And if my past had a message for me about the process of emotionally and intuitively maturing, what might that message be? Right? If the past me could be the child me, could be the young adult me, depending on how old you are. If the past had a message for you, what might that be? And what might a spiritual teacher have to say on the subject? So think about, if you can, think about a specific teacher that you can think about, a spiritual teacher that you already know, or someone that you listen to on YouTube or on Instagram, or someone that you've read books about. What might a spiritual teacher have to say on the subject of emotionally and intuitively maturing? Now, let's talk a little bit about Venus's aspects. Venus is squaring Chiron and Aries, and this challenges us to step out of our comfort zone a little bit and grow beyond who we thought we were when we were growing up or who we were in the past. And we may feel a little bit insecure or sensitive about our identity or how we connect with other people. And, squares definitely always challenge us to shift our perception and direction. And they ask us to move beyond divisive or destructive behavior towards more growth. So squares can be very helpful in creating growth, self-growth, but they can also be challenging and difficult sometimes, depending on whether we're resisting the growth aspect or not. So with this square, social insecurities may be a little bit magnified in the next 4 weeks. So use this time to learn about your own flaws or your own vulnerabilities, and learn about, how you can interact with other people despite any insecurities that you're feeling, despite any vulnerabilities that you're feeling. So you can ask yourself, could showing my human side inspire other people? Could that be a way I could inspire other people? And what if I brought more compassion to my wounded parts or that wounded inner child? And could I have faith in the healing process, even when I get triggered or even when I feel inadequate? Now remember, anger can be a reaction to a boundary violation, or it can also be a cover for another emotion, often fear or sadness or shame. So when we get triggered, we can experience a sense of anger come up, especially with Chiron being in Aries, because Aries is a very fiery energy. So if anger comes up, just notice that and see what's been violated. Has there been a boundary violation, or is my anger covering up another emotion like fear or sadness or shame? And then for those of you who want to have a better understanding of your personal healing journey, I recommend watching my webinar, Chiron and Aries, Healing the Wounded Masculine. It's a fantastic webinar that's available on my website. If you haven't seen it yet, I want to encourage you to take a look at that. And you can also join us on July 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. London time for our next forecasting forum. We will talk about the exalted Chiron, which is the wounded healer, which is stationing and going retrograde in Aries. And we will also talk about the second Mercury retrograde phase of the year in connection with our own birth charts. So feel free to join us for that if that sounds of interest. And there will be a link below this video for more information, and you can also register if you click on that link. Now, let's talk another Venus aspect, which is that Venus also makes a sextile to Uranus and Mars in Taurus. And that creates an opportunity for unusual actions in connection with our talents and in connection with how we value ourselves, how we value our talents, our own resources. And if we take those actions, we could create material and emotional safety for ourselves and for our loved ones. So ask yourself, might a practical yet unique or at least unusual approach to my own resources support me in feeling physically and emotionally safe? And what might such an approach look like? And what will I do with this opportunity? Am I ready? We have to remember, whenever there's a sextile, it's an opportunity for those planets involved to connect and do something together, but it requires of us to take action. It requires of us to actually use the opportunity, step into the opportunity. So what will I do with this opportunity? Am I ready? Am I willing? Am I able to take advantage of it? And what actions are calling to me? Now, Mars not only aligns with Uranus in Taurus, but also sextiles Saturn in Pisces. So we have a lot of sextiles in this new moon chart. And Mars's alignment with Uranus shows our willingness to innovate, new ways of seeing things or using things or approaching our personal possessions or valuables, money, talents. All of that is sort of like going to be in focus. So make the most out of that. And then also ask yourself, what might it look like to consciously break away from situations that have limited me when it came to honoring myself or my talents? And where could I channel my courage? And where do I need to think different or act different? Now, because Mars is also making a sextile to Saturn, that's a very productive time for us. Again, it's a sextile, so we have to take advantage of that. We have to actually do it. So even though this is a productive time for us, it is really important that we source our energy from within, because Saturn is in Pisces and it is also retrograde. So ask yourself, when it comes to my personal resources and finances, could I trust my inner knowing or intuition 5% more than I have previously? And how might a stronger connection to my inner guidance support me in honoring myself and my talents and in seeing my value? This is really crucial as well, right? Seeing your value. The Mars is in Taurus, Uranus is in Taurus. This is all about, can I see my value? Can I step into, how valuable I am no matter what? No matter what I do, no matter what I say, no matter who I am, no matter what situation I'm currently in, no matter what I was born into, can I see my value? And then let's talk a little bit about Jupiter in this new moon chart. Jupiter in Gemini makes a close trine to the south node in Libra, and also, of course, a sextile to the north node in Aries. And it also makes a sextile to Mercury in Leo. Again, another sextile. Lots of sextiles in this new moon chart. Lots of opportunities. Now, Jupiter's trine to the south node makes it easier for us to get a new perspective on any codependencies we feel with other people. And you can ask yourself with this trine, how might a new perspective and a curious approach towards others bring more satisfying interactions? And how might having lively conversations with others support open-minded collaborations? So these are all good questions to use with that Jupiter trine. And then the sextile to Mercury, that creates an opportunity for lively, fun conversations. Because Mercury is in Leo, which is all about fun and self-expression. So we may want to explore some new fun ways of interacting with other people. Humor can play a big part in our interactions, so that can be really neat for those next 4 weeks. So ask yourself, after July 5th, what might be some fun ways to connect with other people? And what could I learn from being more self-expressed or being around people who are? What can I learn from that? And then Mercury, the last one I want to mention very briefly, Mercury is also making an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius, which will be exact a couple of days before the new moon becomes exact. And Pluto is also currently in its retrograde motion as well, just like Saturn and just like Neptune as well, actually. And so with these retrograde planets, there's always an inner process that goes on. And with this opposition, we may take sort of like an all or nothing attitude towards other people. So this could drive some tension or oppositional behavior, but we might feel it more internally. So as best as you can, just remain flexible, be yourself, express yourself from a place of joy and heart-centeredness. That's always a good way to go. And as best as you can, trust what resonates, what rings true, what empowers and connects, rather than what agitates you and what polarizes. So focus on the things that really keep you connected to your heart center rather than things that tend to separate you from others or even from yourself. Now, to sum it all up for this new moon reminds us that to be a successful human being, to sort of like do our best at doing this human journey, we want to really take good care of our emotional and physical well-being, because without the emotional and physical well-being, it's very difficult to do this journey in this human existence well. And so balancing the inner masculine and feminine can really help us to have progress with that, to do better as a human being. And then also taking time to rest, to release, to recalibrate, to raise our frequencies in that way. That can be really helpful for us on this human journey. And then all the retrograde planets, Neptune, Pluto, Saturn, they help us clear old trauma and childhood conditioning from the past. So as best as you can, pay attention to your own feelings, to the sensations that occur inside of you in order to give yourself what you need. And then ultimately, this is all about shifting from being mind-oriented to being heart-centered, or at least to have a balance between the mind and the heart, to not just be cut off from the head up, from the neck up, but to really make that connection between our mind and our heart center. Now, more than ever, the world really needs self-nurturing individuals with a healthy center who are able to do that human journey well. So just ask yourself, would I choose safety or personal growth? And what if I could have both? What might that look like? Because sometimes we think we have to choose one or the other. We think that we can't be safe if we're growing, if we're doing something that's out of the norm or out of the unusual or different from what we've done before. But maybe we can feel safe as long as we're not shooting too fast, right? If we're growing too fast, we get growing pains, just like teenagers that grow really fast. Their bones can start to hurt. But if you're just growing slowly, then there shouldn't be an issue around safety. Now, if you have an ascendant or any personal planets in 12 to 16 degrees of Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, or Libra, then this new moon will definitely impact you more than other people. But even if you don't have planets or points in those particular degrees and signs, just check to see where is 14 degrees of Cancer in your birth chart. Where does that land in your birth chart? And that area of your life, that house, will be impacted over the next 4 weeks. And if you don't know how to look that up, feel free to watch my video, How to Read Your Birth Chart, which is available for free on my website, on my homepage at astrologercoach.com. If you just scroll down, you go to a window that says free class, and you click on that, you can watch that class. All right. Now, the new moon is also the best time to set some powerful intentions for the new lunar month. So how shall we do this? Now, intentions are best done soon after the new moon becomes exact, and definitely not during a moon void of course phase. So this month, the best and most potent time to set intentions would be anytime between 6:57 p.m. on July 5th until 11:47 p.m. on July 6th, so the next day. And then again, 9 minutes later, because the moon void of course is literally just 9 minutes long, so it's probably going to be easy to set intentions this month, between 11:56 p.m. on July 6th until 6:57 p.m. on July 7th. And all of that, of course, is New York time, East Coast time in the US. If you live in a different time zone than that, then feel free to join me on my Facebook fan page or follow me on Twitter or Instagram. I will be posting reminders for setting intentions on July 5th in the evening, July 6th, July 7th, to let you know when it's a good time to set these intentions. And then you just have to look at when those reminders pop up and sit down and do that. And if you want to know a little bit more about how to set new moon intentions, then feel free to click on the link below this video. I have an article on that, so you can look into that for yourself. All right, that's it. Have a fantastic new moon. If you are a member, I will see you again in about 2 weeks for the next full moon video to see how far we've come since setting our new moon intentions. And if you're not yet a member of my online community, I will either connect with you on July 19th for my next forecasting forum, or on July 26th for my next Solar Video Today radio show, podcast show, or I will see you in 4 weeks with the next new moon video. All right, so much love to all of you, and as best as you can, of course, always take good care of your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye. I'm astrologer coach Sonja Francis.